You think the only people who are the people who think and look like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew you never knew. Pocahontas, Colors of the Wind. See, when you operate from the traumatized, fragmented ego and you see in separation, then a lot of times you think you're separate from everything and you're unwilling to learn. But we should always be willing to learn from the people in the environments around us, from everything, from the animals, from nature, right? Everything can teach us something. But when you think you're separate from everything and you cling to your belief systems, your politics, your ideologies, your religion, whatever, then a lot of times the ego prevents itself from learning more and expanding, right? We can learn from everything, right? The Christians can learn from the Buddhists. The scientists can learn from the shamans, right? We can all learn from each other because separation is an illusion. But we live in a world that's so identified with the body, so identified with the thoughts, that we're unwilling to learn from each other, right? And that prevents our consciousness from growing. So never be closed off from learning new things from other cultures, other ideologies, other religions. Because if you do, you're only playing yourself. Another part in that song that I love is when she talks about the rainstorm and the rivers are my brothers, the heron and the otter are my friends, and we are all connected in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. See, everything is connected. We are all connected. There's no separation. And I love how she talks about the relationship with the weather, with nature, with the animals, right? As they're her brothers and they're her friends. Now, a lot of people see this as hippie talk, but this is actually the belief systems, or the truth, I should say, of our ancestors before we were brainwashed into corporate America's perspective, or the corporate perspective and the religious perspective, right? We got our wisdom from the shamans. We got our wisdom from nature. We got our wisdom from a direct connection to God, right? And you see, when you have a relationship with your environment, such as everything is your brother, everything is your friend, everything is an extension of you, then you respect it, right? You love it. You appreciate it. But when you come from the traumatized, fragmented ego and you think it is separate from you, you think it's separate from God. You think it's just some dead thing for you to exploit. But our ancestors understood that everything had a spirit. I remember the song from The Lion King, He Lives in You, right? He lives in everything. And think about that. He lives in you. That's his home, right? Not visiting, he lives there. And so we're not disconnected from spirit. We're not disconnected from God. He's home in us. And he's home in everything we see, because separation is an illusion. We're all connected in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. Never ends. Because our true identity is the I am, spirit, infinite awareness. So you always want to be willing to learn from the so-called other, because the so-called other is you. And when you cut yourself off from all the things that are outside of you, you disconnect yourself from infinite intelligence. Right? We can all learn from each other. Right? The Christians can learn about meditation from the Buddhists and other cultures, right? We can all learn from each other. I love atheists. Atheists help keep me grounded sometimes, right? The scientists help keep me grounded. And so we have to understand, like, we can learn from everything. But it's the ego that sees itself as separate, that doesn't want to learn, that wants to think it knows it all, that its belief system knows it all, that its religion knows it all. But separation is an illusion. It's the circle of life. Everything's connected. Everything serves a purpose. It's like, I remember growing up, our favorite movie in my family was The Lion King. Our favorite cartoon growing up, Disney movie, was The Lion King. Because that movie, although we were all Christian fundamentalists at the time, that movie connected us with the wisdom of our ancestors, the wisdom of Africa, right? Before we had to conform, right, for our safety. You see, and so there was the songs like The Circle of Life that understood that everything, all the animals, all the plants, they served a purpose before there was this good or bad, right? The hyenas weren't bad, they served a purpose, right? The deer, the antelope, they served a purpose. The lions, and it all worked together. It worked together, but when you identify with the ego and you see in separation, right, and you look and you see through the good versus evil, you're in that perspective, then you may think the hyenas are evil and you want to kill them all, not realizing they serve a purpose for the ecosystem, right? But the ego wants to see itself as better than, right? But no, everything serves a purpose. Just even in the human world, right? Everything serves a purpose. And so we can all learn from each other if we're willing. But if we're shut off because of our egos, right, that become narcissistic, then we shut ourselves off from great wisdom. Terence McKenna talked about an archaic revival. And I couldn't agree more. We need a archaic revival. We need to reconnect with the truth of our ancestors, the truth of the Native Americans, right? Truth of Africa. In every culture, European, they all had this truth before people were forced to conform to religion. But you see, before religion, before Hinduism, there were the shamans. And this is where a lot of these spiritual truth came from. They came from nature. They came from plant medicines and things like that. But religion in corporate America has disconnected our society from these truths, from these spiritual truths, from these healing medicines, these medicines that heal your mind, body, and soul. And that's why we need to reconnect with these truths. See, corporate America, they want you disconnected from nature. They don't want you to know that your medicine is in nature. They want to provide, Big Pharma wants to provide all your medicine, right? For profit and power and control. Religion wants to disconnect you from spirit. It wants to make you think it's separate from you, that the power is separate from you, that the love and abundance is separate from you, but it's not, right? And our ancestors knew this. And so we need an archaic revival. We need to reconnect with the wisdom of the shamans. I remember in Lion King where Rafiki, he was a shaman. The monkey with the stick, right? And he was weird and he was strange to everyone, to the lions in that movie. But they respected the shaman because he was extremely wise and he was connected to the spirit world and he was connected to nature. We've lost that, right? We've lost that. And our society is suffering greatly for it. And so never shut yourself off from learning from the so-called others, because you're only playing yourself if you do. As much as I harp on religion, I love it all because I learn a tremendous amount of things from the Bible, right? From the Buddhists, from the atheists, from the New Age, from the pagans, from scientists, right? I love it all, but see, this world that we're currently in, it wants to keep you in that division. It's either my way or the highway kind of thinking. To hate everything, right? And to think you're right and everybody else is wrong. But we can learn from each other. There's nuance to things. Did the scientists know it all? Absolutely not. Right? Do the Christians know it all? Absolutely not. Does the New Age know it all? Absolutely not. But we can all learn from each other if we're open to it. If we're open to it. But because the satanic, inverted, and perverted matrix wants us in a state of separation and division and low frequency, right? We all fight with each other instead of learning. Instead of learning from each other, we want to think, oh, these people are stupid. These people are, this, and this people are that, and we have to fight and hate each other. And we have to cling to our belief systems instead of learning from our belief systems and using our belief systems as a stepping stone to higher truths, to get closer and closer to the truth, right? And so we need to stop letting this matrix bring us into a low frequency state of division and realize we can learn from everything. See, corporate America, they just want us to consume and obey. So that's why they've separated us from the spiritual truths of our ancestors, because they want us to be overly identified with our egos, with our body, with our thoughts, with our experiences. So we feel incomplete. But creation is finished. You're not incomplete. See, it's the circle of life. A circle, a hoop that never ends. That circle is connected. That circle is whole and complete. That circle is who you really are. Because you're not your thoughts, you're not your body, and you're not your experiences. You're the awareness of all those things. We are not connection. We are not separate. We are connected. And so, corporate America wants us to believe that we're incomplete. It wants us to believe we're incomplete. So we reach outside of ourselves to materialism and we become addicted to it. I love materialism, but the reality is everybody's addicted to it, right? Another thing about that movie, Pocahontas, she talks about the riches of the environment. See, we've been cut off from the riches of the environment. We've been cut off from she talks about the sun, the berries of the earth, right? We've been given processed food from corporate America. They have tried to cut us off from running through the pine trails of the forest, right? They want us in the concrete jungle where our only joy is, right, getting drunk and materialism. They don't want you running through the pine trails of the forest. They want you to watch somebody else running through the pine trails of the forest on TV. See, they want you disconnected, right? And we've been disconnected from nature. And that's why people are sick, because our real environment is trees, right? Grass. But we've been disconnected from that. But they don't want you to know that, because they just want to feed you pills and they just want you to get out there and slave. But we've been sold a lie that's terrible for our health. And that's why they want us distracted and fighting with each other, so we don't see through the matrix, right? They want us distracted, fighting with each other, so we don't see that we've been sold a corporate agenda that's completely toxic for our health. And we've been brainwashed to be attached to that system. Right? There's people that die for it, that die for a toxic society, that die for a corporate agenda that's killing them and disconnecting them from the truth. And so we need to let go of the attachment to the satanic, inverted, and perverted matrix and reconnect with the wisdom of our ancestors, right? Because that's the truth, not this corporate agenda, not this corporate society. That's not the truth. Our ancestors had the truth. I had to give the body some love. I love my hats, but I had to air it out today. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed that video, or this video. Much love. Peace out.